So join us.
Hi, I'm Curtis Akins, and I'm excited to bring to you the first program the University of California Marin Master Gardeners have put together for Marin Television. Who are the UC Marin Master Gardeners? We are all volunteers, trained and certified to bring research and science-based information to Marin gardeners and plant lovers. There are around 300 of us now. We volunteer in schools and community gardens, give free public seminars, have information booths at farmers markets and county fairs. We write articles for the Marin IJ, staff a help desk, and we make videos. We call the kind of gardening we practice earth-friendly gardening. Earth-friendly gardening is good for you, your garden, and the planet. It makes sense whether you have a backyard or a balcony. Our first video will show you what we have in mind.
We are so fortunate to live in Marin County's beautiful and diverse natural world. We love our redwood forests, our Mount Tam, the beaches, the wetlands, and all the hillsides and valleys between. We enjoy them. We want to protect them. But the truth is, right now the earth needs our help. Within only 1 year, while we struggled with the worst drought in nearly 130 years, an atmospheric river's downpour gave us the wettest October in 130 years. Extremes are becoming the new normal. Wildfires, floods, scorching temperatures, sea level rise. Climate change is affecting our entire ecosystem. Birds, insects, wildlife, and plants are becoming out of sync. It's so formidable that the idea of combating it can seem overwhelming. Where do we start? One answer is right in our backyards. Gardeners are already fighting climate change and making a difference. They're planting milkweed to feed monarch butterfly caterpillars, building a bee box, removing an invasive plant, and more. And these small actions matter. By respecting and fostering all the connections in nature, gardeners are keeping our planet alive. We call this earth-friendly gardening. Earth-friendly gardening is rooted in the soil, in the ground beneath our feet. We nurture the soil to release nutrients to plants. Plants pull carbon from the air and send it into the soil through their roots. That's how healthy soil becomes a carbon storage bank.
I build healthy soil in my garden by using compost and mulch. That's all I usually need. The combination feeds the soil with nutrients and beneficial microbes, protects it, keeps the weeds down, and helps retain moisture. I don't use pesticides or weed killers that can kill the microorganisms in the soil, endanger the wildlife, and harm beneficial insects. Before I understood this, my garden was okay, but when I used layers of compost and mulch to the soil, my garden got so much better, it came alive. Now it's filled with butterflies and birds. I lose less water, I no longer till the soil, and I can grow more type of plants in my garden than ever before. But today I choose plants with the environment outside my garden in mind too.
Earth-friendly gardeners help our natural world flourish by choosing plants wisely. All wildlife, from insects to birds, even microorganisms, depend on a wide variety of plants.
When we moved in some years ago to an almost barren hillside, we decided to create more than just a garden. We wanted to build a natural habitat, and we have. We concentrated on mostly native plants, and the established plants are surviving the drought with very little water, and they handle a wet winter too. Natives aren't entirely carefree, but are generally easy to care for. I prune the trees and shrubs to keep them spaced horizontally and vertically for fire safety, while being careful about bloom times and nesting birds. Butterflies, beneficial insects, our native birds like quail and hummingbirds, and all sorts of pollinators love my garden. I now think of my garden as a really biodiverse part of a wildlife habitat corridor.
1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat is available because of pollinators like bees, birds, bats, beetles, and small mammals. Today, a lack of feeding and nesting habitats is causing pollinators to decline. This is one area where earth-friendly gardeners can have an especially big impact.
You know, I was always very careful to feed my son a variety of fruit and vegetables and not much candy. When I started learning about earth-friendly gardening, I realized it was the same thing. Our natural environment needs to be fed and cared for too. I use compost and mulch to feed the soil naturally. I grow much of my own food, which means it doesn't need to be transported. I compost what we don't eat and use drip irrigation so I don't waste any water. I let some vegetables bolt for the pollinators and also allow some flowers and shrubs to go to seed for the birds. I've also replaced many of my plants with native plants. Not all, but I consider plants that don't provide food or shelter for our native wildlife in much the same way I thought of candy for my son. My landscape used to be all decorative, and now it has that candy only in moderation.
Many of us have thought of landscape plants as decorations. Now is the time to reimagine our gardens as wildlife preserves. When we gardeners nurture and protect the soil, choose plants with care, conserve water and energy, and protect wildlife and the environment, we can help sustain our local ecosystems. We can fight climate change together, one garden at a time. It's a delicious responsibility. It's earth-friendly gardening.
I love the idea we can make a difference just by the way we take care of our gardens and by the plants we choose. And one type of plant we can choose is a California native. Did you see all the excitement about the spring bloom? I was one of those people that drove miles to see fields of beautiful flowers. Well, you can grow those same plants and many others in your garden. California native plants are absolutely critical food sources for our pollinator insects and wildlife. And they are all critical for our survival. In fact, one native plant, the ceanothus, our California lilac, is a one-stop shopping center all on its own. Ceanothus plants host more than 90 different species of butterflies, moths, plus, of course, the birds and those bees, as well as small mammals who eat ceanothus fruit and seeds. There are ceanothus species all over California, and Marin County alone is home to 11 of those. That means that the wildlife that have evolved over time right here in Marin have evolved right alongside those 11 species of ceanothus. And there are more plants native to Marin. Adding just one of those plants to your garden can make some of our insects and wildlife very happy. However, you can plant natives from other parts of California as well. You'll find some of those that are especially suited to home gardens at your local nurseries. You can plant a California native in a pot or dig several into your garden. The one thing to be careful of when choosing California natives is don't overwater. Otherwise, they're very easy to take care of and beautiful, as you're about to see.
Morning, Bob.
Morning. Hey, buddy. How are you?
The garden looks so beautiful this morning.
Well, it's coming along.
You know, when we moved to this hillside in northern Marin, I was determined to have year-round color, but I also wanted to have a garden of mostly native plants. Native plants understand our climate, mostly need less water than non-native species, and survive our drought years. And they provide a habitat for beneficial birds, butterflies, and insects. It seemed to me one way I could help our native wildlife survive the extremes of climate change.
It makes total sense to use the plants that evolved here in California, and there are so many to choose from. In fact, I know that we can recommend colorful native plants for every season. Let's start with spring.
I don't know anyone who doesn't like ceanothus. Some people call them California lilac. It's interesting. There are 41 species in California, and they are site-specific, like that one. Ceanothus come in many shapes and sizes and can handle full sun or part shade. Some stay only a foot tall but spread 6 to 8 feet wide. Others grow as much as 20 feet tall, and there's everything in between. They might ramble as they please, drape over a wall, become a hedge, or be trained into a tree. Most ceanothus are evergreen, but the thing that makes them stand apart is that most have striking blue blossoms from late winter to early spring, and that is rare in nature. That helps make ceanothus one of the most satisfying native plants for home gardeners. Another native for home gardeners is clematis. Most people don't know that there are 3 native clematis, and all have large white flowers like these. Depending on the variety, the vines can grow 15 to 30 feet, bloom in late winter through spring or even into summer. I have 2. One grows on the stairway here, and the other grows on a trellis over there and blooms a little bit later than this.
I'm going to add 3 more suggestions to our list for spring. Verbena lilacina de la Mina, lupin, and seaside daisies. The verbena is a perennial that can grow to a height of a picnic table and almost as wide. It has dark purple blossoms with lavender streaks. Lupin is usually blue, but it also comes in pink, lavender, and yellow, and it can be tiny or a shoulder-high shrub. Some are annuals and some are perennials. They really add fragrance to the garden. The seaside daisies are native to the coastal beaches and dunes, but do well in our gardens as well. They're small, about 1 foot tall and 2 feet wide, and they have lavender flowers with yellow centers that bloom from winter well into July.
Okay, now let's talk about 2 native plants known especially for summer flowers, penstemon and salvia. There are actually over 100 different types of penstemons native to California. Some are tall, others are small, but whatever size, they have clusters of tubular flowers in red, lavender, or blue. Salvia or sage have red, lavender, blue, or white flowers on plants that mostly have scented leaves. They're evergreen and can grow 3 feet tall. Some like the sun, so others like the shade. So there's a sage for everyone.
I have 3 summer favorites to add to the list: the California sand aster, buckwheat, and these beautiful clarkia. I added California sand asters for their beautiful lavender-tipped, silver, daisy-like flowers and evergreen leaves. Buckwheat's there not only because it attracts pollinators, but gardeners can choose white, pink, yellow, or red flowered varieties. The buckwheats grow low, are evergreen, and they can spread to up to 3 feet wide. Clarkia is another plant with lots of varieties. It's usually an annual, and it might grow as tall as waist high. The flowers are poppy-like, but in shades of lavender, pink, and red. They typically start blooming in late spring and finish before fall.
For fall, I have one favorite, the Rogers red grapevine on the fence here. I love it. It can be fast-growing and vigorous. My vine is 30 feet or more long, and the pollinators were all over the flowers in the spring. I don't know how the grapes taste. The birds get to them before I can. But the best thing is the autumn leaves. I can't wait for the leaves to turn deep red in the fall. Bonnie, what do you like for fall?
I like seeing the California fuchsias in the fall, and the hummingbirds love it. It's perennial, low-growing. It has red flowers that will start at the end of summer and continue through fall when other flowers have stopped blooming. It spreads by rhizomes, and it can self-seed, so it can occupy a really wide area, but I usually cut it back after it flowers.
Okay, let's do winter now. I love my manzanita. You know, there are 100 different kinds of manzanita in the wild, in different sizes from ground cover to 20 feet high. In the garden, manzanita do best in hillsides or other places with good drainage.
One of the wonderful things about native plants is that many give us color in the winter when few other plants are blooming. I have 3 to add to our winter list: ribes, garya, and toyon. The evergreen toyon is typically an 8-foot shrub that flowers in the spring, but around Christmas it produces bright red berries like a holly tree. In fact, some people in Southern California mistook toyon on the hillsides for holly trees, so they named their town Hollywood. Toyon can tolerate more summer water than some native plants, sun or part shade, and many types of soil. It's really a good addition to an existing non-native garden. The ribes varieties can be low-growing, fan out into a small shrub, or grow to 13 feet tall. Some drop their green leaves in summer, but from winter to springs, they give hummingbirds cascades of small pink and sometimes yellow flowers. And some ribes have tiny yellow currants that turn black when they're ripe. The thorny ribes produce gooseberries. One more winter plant would be the evergreen garya. It is a knockout. It can grow 16 feet tall by 10 feet wide, and it has long, creamy silk tassels.
So there we have it, a mostly native plant garden with color for all 4 seasons. And the blooming time of these plants will depend upon rain and other conditions, which can produce some interesting overlap. That's something that I always look forward to.
As Master Gardeners, we talk a lot about the need to design earth-friendly gardens that help us by saving water and help the natural environment by providing habitats. I can't imagine anything more earth-friendly than growing California native plants.
For more information, visit the UC Marin Master Gardener website. And happy planting!
Now you see how beautiful they are. Remember I said a little earlier, they're easy to grow, and they are. But like most plants, you'll need to give natives a careful start. To help you succeed in growing California natives, our video team created this next video to show you the most important tips for growing native plants. And they're busting a few myths along the way. You'll see.
I know better now, but when I bought my first native plant, I thought, I'm in California. It's native. That's all I need to know, right? Well, no. I learned a few lessons. I bought a native plant like this in the summer and put it in the ground right after I got home from the nursery. It was okay to buy it then, but it was the wrong time to plant it.
Nurseries have their best stock in the spring and in the summer when plants are flowering. But the best time to plant them is actually in the fall when we're expecting our first winter rains. In the meantime, you might want to put newly purchased small plants in slightly larger containers to give their roots room to grow while you wait for the right time to plant. And you'll need to water them. If your plants are in 4-inch or 1-gallon containers, water them once a week or sooner if they get dry. If a plant is in a larger container, check the moisture once a week and water only if it's dry.
Second, I planted in the wrong place. I put a plant that usually grows on sunny, dry hillsides in a shady spot. And I didn't realize I bought a plant that could grow too tall and too close to my house. I did that without thinking I need to keep woody vegetation away from the house.
Before you buy plants, make a plan that takes into account the microclimates in your garden, the existing vegetation, and the defensible space requirements for fire-smart landscaping. Determine the requirements for each native plant you want to add to your garden according to the amount of sun or shade they prefer, and eventual water needs and mature size. Then, place them on your plan in the right places.
When I planted my new plant, I did it wrong. I thought I needed to improve the soil to give the plant a good start, so I dug in some compost, added some fertilizer, and I really didn't know until later why the plant wasn't happy.
Native plants prefer unaltered soil, whether the soil is clay, sand, or serpentine. So choose natives that can best tolerate the soil already in your garden. Don't dig in any compost or add amendments to the soil. Keep it simple. Use whatever native soil you have. Then, no matter which plant you choose, here's how to plant it. Dig a hole the same depth as the soil in the pot and at least twice as wide. Place the plant inside so that it's slightly higher than it was in the nursery pot, and use the soil you took out to fill up the space around the plant. Once you have the plant in the ground, you can layer some compost and mulch on top of the soil, keeping it away from the main plant stem.
And then, I didn't water it enough. I didn't realize that many California native plants can do fine with very little water, but that's only true once they're established, which is once they've rooted themselves in the soil.
No matter how drought-tolerant native plants will become once established, they will need regular water the first 2 years. Water them every week or two, depending on how hot it is, and make sure the water gets down to their roots, which will be 8 to 10 inches down. An inexpensive water meter is your native plant's best friend because it will tell you if the plant needs water. Remember, water infrequently, but deeply.
Fortunately, I learned how to do research on native plant gardening and figured out what works best for my native plants. I've had much better success since, and you can too.
Visit the Marin Master Gardener website for more gardening information. You can also check out the California Native Plant Society's CalScape website for information on specific plants. And you can always call or email the Marin Master Gardener Help Desk for good problem-solving advice.
Please consider planting native plants in your garden. The bees, birds, and butterflies will thank you. Happy planting!
Well, this concludes our first program from the University of California Marin Master Gardeners. You can find more videos on our YouTube channel, so please check them out. Also, if you have any questions about anything you've seen or anything when it comes to gardening, plant problems, insect invasions, whatever, you can call or email our help desk. And be sure to sign up for our quarterly free newsletter, The Leaflet. I'm Curtis Akins, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. Happy gardening. Look out for upcoming shows with University of California Marin Master Gardeners, covering everything for people who love gardening and plants. We'll be bringing you information on all sorts of topics, such as pruning techniques, succulents, and my favorite, how to choose the right tomato for your garden. See you next time.